नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय धन्वन्तरे अमृतकलशहस्ताय सर्वामय विनाशनाय त्रैलोक्यनाथाय श्रीमहाविष्णवे नमः.
Good evening, everyone. We welcome each and every one of you. Before moving on to the session, let's welcome our eminent faculty, Dr. Rahul R. Nair. He took his BAMS from Vaidyanathan P.S. Warrior Ayurveda College, Kottakkal, and MD in Yoga Nidanam from Pariyaram Government Ayurveda College, Kannur. Currently working as Assistant Professor and Head, Department of Yoga Nidanam and Vigruti Vijnanam, Specialist Consultant at Teaching Hospital, Ashtangam Ayurveda Chikitsalayam, Palakkad. Senior Visiting Specialist, Sidaram Pharma Specialty Clinics, Palakkad, and Medilife Polyclinic, Kutanad. Worked as tutor in Department of Kriya Shariram, Amuda School of Ayurveda, Assistant Professor and Consultant, MVR Ayurveda Medical College, Kannur, Evaluator and Examiner for University of Kannur and Kerala University of Health Sciences Graduate Examinations. He tries to explore the vast potential of Ayurveda in providing solutions for spectrum diseases like cancer, autoimmunity, pulmonary and cardiac disorders. We honorably invite you, sir. The dais is yours.
Okay. So, once again, I wholeheartedly welcome all of you to this session regarding Jwaram. So, even though my topic has been fixed towards certain limited entities like pneumonia, dengue fever, influenza, chikungunya, etc., I put this title, Jwaram, Fresh Perspectives for Current Era. Why? Because we are speaking about this topic particularly today or even in these coming days of COVID-19. I am speaking to you from Kerala, where still almost 100 to 120 persons die every day due to COVID-19. Even though the number of COVID-19 infections has came down recently in our state, still the number of people dying per day is crossing 100. For a small state like Kerala, with so many deaths happening in front of our eyes, we should have some fresh perspectives for current era management of Jwara. So, being this being the I think the first session of this Jwara series, I want to put forward certain initial introductory elements of Jwara into this presentation. So I welcome you everyone. Let's together discuss some very interesting facts regarding Jwaram. What the people expects from us Ayurvedists. What should be the futuristic concepts or futuristic steps which we have to adopt so that we can manage the upcoming fevers. Now we are in the grip of second wave. And there are predictions that there are future more waves are coming. And even though vaccination drive is going perfectly, the rate of infectivity cannot be cut down simply by giving some vaccinations. So the wisdom which is coming to us down from ages, centuries back, the interesting observations of learned clinicians who have recorded those observations in our prestigious Samhitas. We have to explore back, we have to go back, we have to see what our acharyas, what the master clinicians in India have done when they battled with the severe crippling fevers in the past. So I think Ayurveda is actually a recorded history of the disease pattern, the responses taken while diseases came up, how the epidemics were handled, how the persons were revived back into life. So all those recorded observations are hidden, lying in our Samhitas, and a lot of medications devoted for each spectrum of Jwaram is available there. So the term Jwaro Rogapati is actually the introductory statement of Vaghada when he starts Ashtanga Hridayam Jwara Nidana. Previously, I think before 2019 or 2000, in that period, when we say the term Rogapati, many people will be having some doubts how this happens. But when during the pre-COVID era itself, we were having different waves of fevers coming to our state and affecting a lot of people. And we see when you look into a global perspective, we can see COVID-19 is a grave issue from 2020 onwards. But prior to that, there were waves of Ebola passing through Africa, dengue virus infections spreading throughout Asia, Southeast Asia, Middle East, Africa, everywhere. Infections like leptospirosis, chikungunya, Japanese encephalitis happening. And we might have heard about a group of young children, I think in many villages have been washed away or put into death due to the spreading encephalitis in many parts of remote districts of Chhattisgarh, Bihar, etc. And 2 years back, we got an attack of Nipah in Kerala. That was a very rare fever. And thus, every year we were facing different patterns of fever. And now, when we are in the grips of this COVID-19, many a time the sources like Facebook or some other social media channels have brought out the episode of Spanish flu, which came in 1920, etc. So, Jwara is actually Rogapati. Rogapati means the king of diseases or the supreme among the diseases. Why? Because a person who functions normally, who is in a physiological milieu, is suddenly brought into a pathological spectrum with rise in temperature and suddenly getting weakened, crippled, and succumbing to death. So, in an era where the medical care was very remote, when the number of Vaidyas were very scarce, and people were living very near to the forests, and other settlements were very close to remotest places on earth, there were chances of infections. And the ancient physicians who were put to battle these infections had rightly stated that this is Rogapati itself. Why? Because they have to develop strong theoretical background to explain what is happening to the patient. They have to devise medications, procedures, dietary modifications to those persons who are undergoing fever to maintain their Sharira Balam. And slowly they were taken back to life. And also they might have seen a lot of cases which were dying. And they have recorded those beautiful observations, even the chances of death, even the dates in which the people will die. That is being recorded in Nidana Sthanam in Ashtanga Hridaya Masvalasam Charagam when we refer Sannivada Jwara. So, when the people die, they thought that, or their theory was, or they have constructed a theory of Dhadubhaga. And when the people got rescued, they constructed the theory called Doshapagam happens. So, the duty of a Vaidya was constructed that it was constructed, or it is rightly messaged in our Samhitas that the duty of Vaidya is to manage or regulate the Paga process. He has to oversee, he has to supervise the Paga process happening in the body of the patient, wherein the doshas, which are Sama, which is circulating all through the body along with Agni. And our duty is to empower the Agni, which has been expelled from the Koshta, to carry out the dosha bhaga and hence open the channels and return back to Koshta. So we are carrying out dosha bhaga efficiently without causing dhatu bhaga. And our intention, our therapeutic target is to defend dosha bhaga by any means. Defend dhatu bhaga by any means. Dhatu bhaga surely will lead to death. And also, the one eye of physician is always kept towards the status of ojas, the bela of the patient. So, Acharya in the first chapter of Jwara Chikitsa itself states that the bela or the rogi bela is the cornerstone of Jwara Chikitsa, and all the therapeutic interventions should be focused towards maintenance of rogi belam, and the rogi belam itself is sufficient to create dosha bhagam and to defend dhatu bhagam. So we see that when influenza waves happen, when COVID-19 wave is happening, even those countries with the highest reputation of doing technological medicine, providing all those sorts of equipments, are failing. Why? Because the patients who are coming for that facilities containing highly technological oriented interventions were already having weakened rogi belam or weakened the status of ojas, so that they cannot themselves defend the strength of Jwaram. They cannot bear the strength of Jwaram. So how they can bear the strength of the treatment or the interventions? So we are day to day, we are seeing how the failure of rogi belam is creating the advance of disease and succumbing of the patient to that particular Jwara. So the statement of Acharya that Jwara is Rogapati is being correctly defended during the COVID-19 pandemic. Some question and answers which we used to hear during these days: do Ayurveda provide management for any of these diseases? Any of these Jwara can be managed? If yes, whether how these diseases were referred in Ayurveda? This is a usual question. Can you treat cancer? So we say we can manage it. Then the next question is whether cancer is described in your Samhitas. Or can you provide treatment for an illness happening new in the society which is not described in the Samhitas? And our answer is yes, all these fevers can be managed with very well with Ayurveda. And no, these fevers are not directly referred in our classics. We do not have such an approach of classifying each and every clinical entity. But we have got broad classifications of a universal term called Jwara. We have created a model. We are having model-based approaches only. And we are having model-based approaches with the Doshi classification. And hence, by using those models, Ayurveda has a methodology to learn and provide solutions for new diseases. So prior to COVID-19, I remember the onset of Zika virus, and that results in microcephaly. At that time, I was reading in newspaper regarding the delegations or the inquiry of the global community regarding any solution regarding the prevention of microcephaly in Zika affected mothers. So naturally, if something happens beyond the capability of the technomedicine, such deliberations or such inquiries are naturally coming towards Ayurveda, and hence Ayurveda is capable to learn and to provide solutions for new disease from its therapeutic armamentarium. And our methodology is simple. We are focusing on Lakshana Samashti or the syndrome complex. The whole lot of description of Lakshana Skandha in Ayurveda. That means the entire Panchalakshana Nidhanam. And by using that element of the description of the disease, we are trying to build up an Abhyantara Vigruti Parampara. So we are going to construct an Abhyantara Vigruti Parampara for each person affected with a particular disease. So that Abhyantara Vigruti Parampara is going to solve the question at hand. So we are having a new disease called COVID-19. And by assessing the Lakshana Samashti of each and every patient, we will develop a very personalized Abhyantara Vigruti Parambara for every patient. And by using that Abhyantara Vigruti Parambara, the term Parambara means a cascade. It's a continuous journey. That means when the physical body is exposed to Nidana, and when the Guna Vidyana happens, the Dosha Vidyana happens, the disease will happen. So when the disease happens, how it is proceeding, what all Srodasas are affected, what all Dhadus are affected, and as the Dhadu, Agni, Srodasas are affected, how the disease is going to harm the body. And what happens after the disease, whether any new Upadrava Roga will start and kill the person. What are the udarkas of this particular phenomenon? So in that way, we are constructing an Abhyantara Vigruti Parambara. And by using that Abhyantara Vigruti Parambara and models which are mentioned in our textbooks, we can suitably pick up a particular protocol from our textbook and administer to a specific patient. That means all our approaches, all our efforts are person-centric, or we are centering around the yogi for delivering a particular type of protocol to that particular person for that particular roga. So regarding Jwara, the signature clinical feature, I talked about the Lakshana Samashti. So we are focusing on the signature clinical feature, Sandabo Deha Manasa. The change in the normal internal milieu of body and mind, which is recognized as rise in temperature. So simply stated, all Jwara is simply a fluctuation in the temperature of the body, or temperature regulating mechanism of the body that may have been resulted from a change in the internal environment of the body and the mind. So not only the body, but also the mind is a factor when Jwara is taken into consideration. So this Sandabam happens in the body. So what is the signature pathological feature or the cornerstone pathological feature happening? We are seeing Agni for the first time in the Shakha. Already the branches of Agni are present in Shakha in the form of Dhatu. It's right. But we are now seeing a complex called Agni and Samadosha, which is being circulated in the Shakha, raising the temperature in the Shakha, whereas the Koshta is devoid of Agni. So we find that the Koshtam, there is Agni is totally expelled from the Koshtam, and after this expulsion, this Agni is seen circulating in the Dhadus along with the Samadoshas. So this happens to be the signature pathological feature of Jwara. So Jwara, why many a time the question happens that why Jwara is being mentioned first in the textbooks. So the reason is that this type of expulsion of Agni is seen only in Jwara. Agni, where in all other diseases, Agni is placed inside the Koshtam and variation of Agni happens there itself. But here in the case of Jwaram, the variation happens when Agni is thrown out of the Koshtam. And hence, the Jwara happens to be a disease of contrast. The patient says, I'm feeling very cold. And the physician says the patient is felt to be very hot. So at the same time, the symptom which is felt by the patient and sign which is felt by the physician, both are in deep contrast. This contrast is being properly explained in Ayurveda by the presence of Agni in the Shakha and the absence of Agni in the Koshtam. I think you got the situation, the entire soul of the situation. So the expulsion of Agni from Koshta, circulation in Dhadu along with the Samadosha, and consequent rise of Tabam at Shakha and Shaityam at Koshtam happens to be the characteristic features of this illness. And we study disease models rather than diseases, as all of us know. Hence, we can accommodate any new pathology with ease. It's very easy to construct a Samprapti for a particular disease for a particular person because we are having universal or umbrella type models which are being taught to us. And personalization happens to be our greatest advantage. Any model you take, Jwara, or Raktapitta, or Kasa, Swasa, Rajayakshma, Arshas, Grahani, Adisaram, any model. To that particular model, you can add the personalized features, the features of a particular rogi in the form of Dashavida Pariksha. And in that way, you can derive a specific protocol from that particular model. And this is the beauty of Ayurveda. And we do in this sequence, we identify the right model by using Vyadhi Pratyatma Niyadalakshanam, as I have told that for Jwaram, Sandabo Deha Manasa is the Vyadhi Pratyatma Niyadalakshanam, and Abhyandara Vigridi Parambara is constructed. We explore that particular model by placing the specific details of the patient, and we arrive at a diagnosis. And for us, the diagnosis doesn't mean a term. So that's why Acharya says, Vigara Nama Akushalo na Jithiyet Kadajana. For us, the term, by telling a term, the diagnosis never ends. We describe the patient in the form of diagnosis. Our diagnosis is very descriptive. So, in that way, by using a descriptive diagnosis, by even incorporating the avastha of patient into that particular diagnosis, even if we have got no term to say, we can say this particular dosha residing in this particular dhatu have moved through this particular srotas. Now, in this particular roga margam, is creating this type of symptoms, is in this particular avastha. Samavastha or Miramavastha or Jirnavastha or Pakvavastha, likewise. So this is the diagnosis in Ayurveda. And as per that particular description, we select the specific procedure, internal medication, and a regimen for the particular patient, apply it to the patient, seeing the result. For example, we see temperature rise and the way it happens. We identified the model called Jwaram. The Nidanam may be exposure to rains, intake of cold ice cream and excess spicy food for long duration, exposure to AC. So there is a Kapha Pitta Vritti, which is now focusing at Urdhvangam, that might have been resulting in a sinusitis or tonsillitis. Now we are selecting a specific protocol. We are advising the patient to use Ushna Jwaram. Lina Pitta, Anila Sweda, Shagarat Mutra Anulomanam. So that single line describes how to place the therapeutic targets. We have to create anulomanam of Lina Pitta, Sweda, Shakrat, Mutra, etc. And also, if there is Pittanubandhitvam, we fear if Pitta is going to come up and resulting in some catastrophes, we will change the Ushna Jalam into Shadanga. So there are innumerable choices available to us. But the importance is to plot where to plant the attack. Where is the correct cornerstone of pathology resides? Where you have to operate. In that way, from innumerable number of medications, procedures, dietary patterns, you have to derive a particular protocol for a particular patient. That is a challenge in front of us. So now the question arises, if you can treat every Jwara like this, how you will understand the Jwara will be turning fatal? And now we see several patterns. When you go through the Samhita, you can see that when Egadoshaja or Samsargaja Jwara turns Sanipadika, there is every chance that it will turn fatal. Okay. And when Sanipadika Jwara attains the status of Hridaujas, in Ashtanga Hridayam, there is a term called Hridaujas, which is mentioned as a synonym of Sanipadika Jwara. Hridaujas means in a Jwara where the Ojas is destabilized. Hridam means one which is taken away. So when Ojas is being taken away, the patient will die. When the doshas are away from Shodhana Marga, doshe vibadhe. When Agni is very weak, nashte Agno, to create Pajana, or when Jwara ensues with the full Rupa, you can see that doshe vibadhe nashte Agno sarva sambhurna lakshanaha, Jwaro asadhyaha. That results in asadhyatvam of Jwara. And also, when Dhadubhaga happens and Doshabhaga remains a distant possibility, when there is inherent weakness of Dhadus. Many patients die because of inherent weakness of Dhadus, not because of Jwara. When the patient is having reduced Dhadusara, reduced Ojas, destabilized Bela, compromised Vyadhikshamatvam. All these results in turning of fatality. So when we go through many textbooks, especially those of Kerala special textbooks, we can see that the one segment of the chapter will be denoted to Egadoshaja, Samsargaja, Sanipadiga Jwara, etc. The other segment will be devoted to Sanni Chikilsa. Sanni Chikilsa means, especially in the case of Chikilsa, Sarvaroga Chikilsa Ratnam, etc., in such textbooks as used in Kerala, we have got a special chapter called Sanni Chikilsa, where the medicines which are some sort of step up. We have to step up our clinical aggressiveness. Previously, for Vada Kapha Jwara, you will be using Vyakhyadi Kashaya. For Paithika Jwara, you will be giving Sudarsana Gulika. But when the Jwara turns fatal, the clinical aggressiveness need to be stepped up. So what will happen? So your pattern, your treatment pattern is going to change. You are introducing a new Kashayam called Daru Nagaradi to counter the excess Vada Kapha Pradhana Sannipada Avastha. And also, if there is intolerable Pitta, you have to introduce Varna Muktadi Gulika. So in that way, different varieties of new medicines, new procedures, you are keeping talam in the form of Rasnadi Churnam or Kachuradi Gulika when the disease turns fatal. So every other mechanism is brought into action to prevent the fatality.